Welcome to another episode of the Emmy, Myself and I podcast. I'm Tom Ellis. Some of you might know that I wrote and directed Emmy, Myself and I, and have suffered with Emmy for 19 years. I'm lucky now because it's milder than what it was as a child and a teenager and a young adult. So I'm incredibly lucky, but I do want to speak about some of my experiences with specific aspects of it. And one of the things that I want to speak about is physio. So I'm sure when people hear that word, particularly those who have ME, it will definitely conjure up deep emotions, because for those that don't know, ME is a neurological illness and it affects you physically and is deeply misunderstood by the medical profession. And quite often, once you've been diagnosed with ME, they send you to physio, which does not help the majority. I mean, maybe it might help some, but I think in the majority, so 90%, 95%, graded exercise does not work. And in fact, it makes the situation far worse. And it also is incredibly upsetting experience. And yet, it's still something that people are prescribed with. Which I think is shocking. Like, I was sent to physio in 2002. And yet, I know people who in 2017, 2018 were still being sent to physio. I think it's also interesting that as we're hearing more about long COVID, which is kind of very similar to ME, and more people being diagnosed with that instead of ME, the medical profession definitely aren't sending those people to physio. It's been clear that makes it worse. So it's kind of shocking that same care and consideration isn't or hasn't been given to ME sufferers. So yeah, my experience with physio. This is a really hard story to share, and it was a low moment. So for those, just to kind of give a bit of backstory, I first showed symptoms of ME in 2001, so October time, and it was a long process to get diagnosed. And I've spoken about this before, but we had an original consultant that did not believe in ME and really led us down a really horrific path that really made things worse. Eventually we got a second opinion from another consultant, and he did diagnose me with ME. And from that point, obviously, he was just following the path that all consultants and doctors and stuff like that were prescribing for ME, which was physio. That was the way. So I don't blame him for that, because that was just the way it was done. That was the guidance given by the medical profession. So yeah, I had a physio appointment, and I remember it I can remember so many details about it, and it was so long ago. Firstly, I remember that at the time, my aunt was looking after me whilst my mum worked. My mum hadn't given up work at that point. I couldn't go to school. I think it was pre me getting home tuition as well. So I remember my aunt taking me to the local hospital and my mum meeting us there. So I was at this physio appointment, and there was my aunt, my mum, and I believe a cousin as well, who was a baby at the time, and we were at physio. And I remember the physio not being the kindest, nicest person I've ever met in my life. I remember her deeply believing that this would help, and deeply believing not in ME, and believing that running it off would work. And that's what she proceeded to do. We're in this gym sort of style room, and I ran. She'd been running in circles as fast as I could. And I couldn't run that fast, and I remember struggling and my legs sort of buckling and crying. I remember the pain of it, and I remember her shouting and telling me to carry on and continue, and so that this would help me feel better, and it didn't. It made me worse. Like, the weeks after that were really, really, really a lot of pain. And obviously my mum and my aunt were shocked by this, and we were out of there fairly rapid. And I remember like my aunt buying me a cake after to kind of cheer me up and things like that. I remember how shocking it all was to everyone at the time. Like the wider family didn't understand Emmy perhaps, but I feel like this kind of was a bit of a turning point in that having an aunt or a family member there, seeing how badly we were being treated as a family by the medical profession, I think definitely sort of was an eye opener, and seeing how this 12-year-old boy was being made to run until he cried because that helps. Apparently it doesn't. It's shocking. It's maddening. When I still see the word physio and see people being prescribed it, that's just not right. It's not right. I disagree with it vehemently. And I hope that things will change with, the way that treatment's going with long COVID and the things that they are putting into place in the medical profession. I hope that some of them now start carrying it over to Emmy. And I hope that we see a day where no one is ever prescribed physio. Obviously, I know that there's a lot of opinions about graded exercise and things like that. So I won't go into that because I just don't simply know enough about it to have an opinion or even claim to have an opinion, because I always say when it comes to Emmy, I kind of speak about it from a personal place and I read up on it, but I don't ever claim to be an expert. I think there's people and there's channels and there's people on social media and on Facebook and all sorts that have a much better idea about it than me, about all the kind of medical sciencey kind of elements of it. I always speak about Emmy from a personal standpoint, from kind of the emotion. That's how I write the show, is largely from the emotion of it. And this is one thing that, when I think back to, still enrages me and brings about a really big emotion. And that's kind of what I like about these podcast kind of sessions, is that they are not edited. They can just bits that I can talk about past experiences. Doesn't mean that, this physio chapter is going to be in any of the episodes. It's just kind of me sharing what my experiences were like with it and being honest and kind of just speaking about as many different facets of Emmy as I can. And this is one of them. And I'm really curious. I really want to turn this into a conversation. So this isn't a super long podcast. I hope that many people listen to it. And I'm really just curious about what people's experiences are with it. What their story is with physio. I really want this to turn into a conversation piece. So obviously you can let me, if you feel comfortable, let me know your experiences in the comments or on Twitter or on Facebook, anywhere. You can find us anywhere. I think we're largely like Emmy Drama Series on Twitter and Instagram, and the links will be in the description, so you can find us that way. But I really want to just kind of make these podcasts a talking point. And I always say, like, if anyone ever wants to come on and speak or has a story to share, I want this to be a platform that people can speak about it. And yeah, I just think that we're living in a time where obviously people are experiencing isolation and having to stay inside, but obviously the Emmy community's been experiencing that for way longer, and will continue to experience it way longer. So I think that whilst people perhaps are more willing to listen because of maybe a greater sense of empathy, I think that we should be as vocal as we can about our experiences and speak about it, and try and get into as much detail as we can, because there are so many interesting elements to Emmy and there's so many horror stories, and I've heard stories way worse than mine. Like I have, and it's shocking. But that was my physio experience. So yeah, short episode, just kind of a basic me talking about it. But yeah, hope that you found it helpful in some way. And yeah, until the next episode, Thanks for listening.